In this video series, I will tell you how you can create a 3D retro FPS game on Godot from scratch. While making Godot, I noticed the sheer lack of quality tutorials available on YouTube. They were either too short and failed to teach you the fundamentals, or were way too old and cumbersome to be relevant to today's time. This caused me a lot of headache while making the game, and I most likely would have easily shortened my development time in half if only there was a series like this one present at that time. So be sure to watch this till the end, as my goal with this video is to not only teach you how to make an FPS, but to also give you the fundamental knowledge required to make any type of game using Godot. So now let's start. Here we have a basic Godot project. I have done nothing except for adding some sprites that we will be using today. Speaking of today, our agenda for today's part will be to give you the basic knowledge required in making an FPS, and what is more basic than shooting a gun in an FPS. So for that, first we will pick our player. Our player will be a character body 3D node. Rename this node to player and add the collision shape 3D node to it. As the name suggests, this is the shape that will be used by our player to collide with the world. But we also have to define the exact shape that the player will take. A capsule shape will do just fine for now. However, we also have to define just with what objects our player can collide with. Open the project settings and go to the 3D physics tab. Here you will notice a bunch of text fields. Each of these represent a collision layer. Name the layer 1 as player. All our player's collision shape will belong to this layer. For our layer 2, we will name it world, and this will contain all of our shapes representing our floors, our ceilings, and our walls. Open your player's node inspector. Make sure in our collision layer tab 1 is selected and in our collision mask 2. This means that our player belongs to collision layer 1 and can collide with objects belonging to collision layer 2. For our pistol, make a new node 3D scene and add a canvas layer to it. This canvas layer represents our UI layer and is drawn on top of everything. The reason we are doing this is because our gun is always drawn on top of everything, even when it is not physically possible. This is done by drawing our guns on a different UI layer than the rest of the game. Our canvas layer is just that thing. Inside this, add an animated sprite 2D node. We will use this to import our gun sprite sheet into our game. Make a new sprite frame, import your idle sprite, add a new sprite sheet called shoot, and add the corresponding sprites. Now, to control anything inside our canvas layer, we use a control node. So add that and make our sprite its child. Anchor our control node to the bottom of our screen. This makes our control node and coincidentally our gun lock to the bottom of our UI layer, giving it the look of a traditional FPS. To test our changes, go back to the player scene. Add a node 3D called head. This will act as the head of our character and will hold its eyes, that is the camera. Add a camera 3D node and the pistol scene to our player. However, you will notice our game is just a big black gray box. This is because Godot by default does not add any environment or any light to our game. To add this, make a new 3D scene called world, insert our player scene as well as the default sun and environment. Now we have some background. To facilitate our player's movement, we have to first make a floor that our player will walk on. Add a CSG box 3D to make this act as a floor. Enable collision and set its collision layer to be 2 and its mask to be 1. To move our player, let's add a script to our character body 3D. For now, let us just use the default one. I noticed 3 problems straight up. One is that our movement is very slow. Second, we can jump, but we do not jump in Doom, so we will have to remove that. And thirdly, we cannot move with our mouse. To fix this, first, since we will not be jumping, we can remove this code right here. Increase our movement speed. Now, to move with our mouse, we have to first capture its motion. This can be done by changing our input class's default mouse mode to be mouse mode captured. I will explain more about it in later parts. To rotate our player using our mouse, we make a new input function. This is a built-in function provided by Godot that runs after every single input provided by the player. This input is stored in our event variable. If our current event is our mouse's movement, we will rotate our player along the y-axis, and the factor by which we rotate is directly proportional to the amount our mouse has moved along the x-axis. That is, if our mouse moves left by x amount, we rotate our player anti-clockwise on the y-axis relative to that amount. With the player now moving, now let's see how we can make it shoot our pistol. Add a animation player node. This is used to animate our sprite sheet that we added at the start of the video. Now we will have to add our sprite frame by frame into our animations timeline. I will explain more about animation player in later parts, as we will use it extensively throughout our series. I also noticed that our sprites are not all of the same size, so in some scenes they're actually going below our game screen. For those frames, I'm just moving our sprites a little up so they're always within our game's boundary. Now, to actually shoot our gun, we make a new script for our pistol. Initially, we will play our idle animation. If at any time we press any mouse button, we will play our shoot animation. Now, to add in our pistol sound, we add a audio stream player node, drag and drop our sound, and just play it whenever we run our shoot animation. And here you have a shooting gun. Hope you folks like this introductory part. We will rework most of everything we have done today as we dive deeper into specific topics later down our series. This part was just to teach you the basic flow of our game or any FPS in general. I have skimmed over some of the topics in this part. This is because we'll go deeper into them anyway in our upcoming parts, and I don't want to overburden you from the get-go. Until the next part, why don't you guys go and watch the devlog of Godot, the Doom-like FPS that I developed, which was the original inspiration of this tutorial series. And if not, well, like and subscribe.